second speech, organize your speech. Our objectives will be to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand our speech, make our message clear with supporting material directly contributing to that message, use appropriate transitions and moving from one idea to the other, and create a strong opening and closing. The speech title is My Pilgrimage. Please welcome, and our speech is 5 to 7 minutes long. Please welcome Jan. One more time.
Thank you. I'm going to pass out 2 maps to you today. They're of Spain, and my talk is about doing my pilgrimage. It's the Compostela de Santiago. So if you will find Leon on the map.
Yeah, no, it's right up here.
Have you ever thought about going on a pilgrimage? Do you know what a pilgrimage is? A pilgrimage is a journey to some sacred place with religious devotion. Now, my friend, Father Bob Busson, did the entire Compostela, which would be about 500 miles. He started in France, went over the Pyrenees. Well, I talked to my friend from Germany who said, you don't want to do it that way. You want to go a little more upscale. So I went with a company called Headwater, and each morning I was picked up, taken to the starting place, unless the place we were staying was right on the Compostela. Now, the Compostela de Santiago has been a pilgrimage for hundreds and hundreds of years. Santiago is the place where St. James is buried. A shepherd once went out into the field, compassed, and looked up at the skies, Stella, and this is where he found that St. James' body was. Now, I started from Leon in Spain. We toured Leon that day, and Leon is well known for the beautiful cathedral there. It has more acreage of stained glass window than any other cathedral in the world. In Leon, the first thing one does is we went to a monastery where we picked up or bought from the nuns there a shell. Now, the shell is indicative of this pilgrimage because as you see the lines in the shell, they're the many places that people came from to do this pilgrimage, but all the paths lead to Santiago. So people that are on a pilgrimage wear this attached to their backpack. So, day 1. We picked up also at the monastery a passport. Now, this passport, in each place that you go, you must have 2 stamps a day. Because when you get to Santiago, you cannot get your certificate showing that you have done the pilgrimage unless you have this. So every day I kept that with my passport, and you might get it stamped at a bar, a church, a coffee house. Now, the entire length of the Compostela is 500 miles. I did a little less than half. So, day 2, the important thing was the Cruz de Ferro. It's a rock it's a pile of rocks where everyone that has done the pilgrimage brings a rock. And I thought I had my rock here, because the day I did this, I looked through my luggage, which was in a van before we started. I couldn't find that. So I don't know if it really counts as my pilgrimage or not. So we started from Manda Nasica. Day 3, we went, this is my favorite town on the entire pilgrimage. And here are some pictures. This is such a wonderful ancient town. The church there is the oldest church along the Compostela. It was built in 836. And this was our highest hike because you went over 2 mountain ranges. And each day we did about 10 miles. 2 days we did 18. If you notice in these pictures, the stone buildings, and the stone comes from the area, have thatched roofs. And originally, the people only had a 1-room stone area where they would sit around, and their beds were like pieces of lumber, and they used it as their table when they weren't sleeping. Now I mentioned that mine was more upscale, so each night we stayed in wonderful places. One had been a rectory that had been refurbished, and there was also a chapel on the property. Day 4 was Saria, and this place you recognize because as you're approaching Saria, you see windmills everywhere. Day 5, we were going from one town to the next, and like I said, some days the place we stayed was right on the path. Other days we were picked up at the bar, as I mentioned before, and taken to the place. And then the next day we would go back to where we had finished the day before. This is the day, Casa Rual, where we walked into a town that had been flooded deliberately, and everything in this town had been destroyed except 2 churches. But they had to take all of the stone and remove the stone to another place in town to rebuild the churches. This was also a winery, and we did have good wine every night. Day 6 was Les Tito, stone ruin restored by Cesar. Now, he was the local vet, and this was the most gorgeous of all the places we stayed. I do have pictures, but I don't know how to do a PowerPoint. Okay. Day 7 was Okato. Now from Azura, this was our 18, we had 2 days of 18-mile hikes. And let me tell you, it was not that hard because each day, like I said, you could stop for a beer, you could stop for coffee along the way. Day 9 was Rua, and this was where there was an ancient mill. It was a grist mill that had been turned into a place where we could stay. Day 10. As we approach Santiago, you see this wonderful stone figure, and you know you're close. But no, not so close. We're then another 5 miles. Now the highlight of this is going to the cathedral in Santiago, where St. James is buried under the altar. I'm just going to finish by reading you one statement. The Santiago, or any pilgrimage, has no end, because when you arrive, you realize you have to keep on walking towards St. James, towards others, towards your inner self, towards God. This will only be finished when the life that we enjoy day by day comes to an end. Thank you.